Welcome to the Scott and Brandon Show, a show where we entertain the pressing biblical, social, and political issues of today. My name is Scott Jackson, and this is my co-host, Brandon Ulmer. Our aim is to have open conversations about serious topics and to build up the body of Christ in the process. If you're interested in theology, applying scriptural principles to our daily lives, or political and social issues as they relate to Christianity, you'll definitely want to tune in. This is the Scott and Brandon Show. Hey everybody, welcome to the Scott and Brandon Show. My name is Scott Jackson, and with me, as always, is my co-host, Brandon Ulmer. We've got a really interesting topic to discuss with everybody today. We're talking about AI and all of the spiritual implications associated with that, how Christians can use it, how churches can use it. Is it evil? Today's episode is titled The Machine, a discussion on AI and its involvement in the church. So it's going to be it's a very interesting topic to discuss today. So Brandon, I guess right off the top, I'm just going to start with a question for you. What is AI, and are Christians allowed to use it?
It's a great question, and honestly, I don't think answering the question is as easy as giving the question. What is AI? Obviously, yes, it is artificial intelligence. It is basically this computer that can act autonomously, right? But there are parameters with our AI. But AI is evolving, and there's different stages of AI, and we're at a stage now where AI is able to react, and have, basically a human-like conversation that feels just normal, honestly, right? So, but AI is making advancements, right? They're developing new things, and the capabilities of AI. Really, AI is going to become, in a point, limitless, almost.
Mm-hmm.
Right? Can Christians use it? When it comes to that, I think Christians are going to have a choice as far as, not being able to decide. I say this, actually, not being able to decide not to use it. AI is already so integrally woven into our fabric of society as we exist now.
Yeah.
That, 5-10 years down the road, I have no idea what that looks like. As far as AI, I've seen the discussions on AI, where the direction that it is going in the next 5 to 10 years. Shoot, I mean, within the next year, some of the new developments that will be coming out on AI are amazing. But at the end of the day, you're not going to be able to run away from it.
Yeah.
You're not going to be able to resist it. It is everywhere. And, when I was researching AI and looking a little bit of AI up, there's a podcast that Jordan Peterson does, and I forgot the guy's name, but he did one on AI, and it was really quite remarkable podcast. But he made a very profound statement, and the statement was, when the internet came out, people thought they could, resist it. They didn't need it. They weren't, it didn't need to be a part of their life. Well, where are we at right now in 2024? Internet, Wi-Fi, right? It is connected to every fabric of society, right? I mean, we saw just the other day when it comes to internet software and all these different things, that they shut down planes all globally, all over the world. Was it just last month?
Yep.
Right. And so the internet, as much as it is so integrally woven and it is in the very palm of your hand, right, AI is going to be the exact same way.
Yeah.
The exact same way.
Yeah. AI, I think, is probably going to be as revolutionary in the technology world as the internet was in general. So when the internet was first invented, it kind of shifted everything. And now the internet is just kind of commonplace for people who use it, and everybody today, if you're not on the internet, those are few and far between.
Yeah.
I do think AI is probably going to get to that point, if not already. I know a lot of like cell phone manufacturers have also integrated AI already. Apple's actually kind of late to the game, but they will be with their newest software update, iOS 18, that comes out in a few days. It will have what's called Apple Intelligence. So it's Apple's AI that's integrated into, it'll be every iPhone that has the software update.
Yeah.
Um,
Unless you ignore the update.
unless you ignore the update, in which case your phone won't work in promptly 35 minutes. Samsung has already done it. Google has already done it. Obviously, Google's AI is Gemini. I'm not sure what Samsung uses. But yeah, I mean, AI is already integrated into, I mean, it'll be integrated into our cell phones. So we'll be using it as often as we use our cell phones.
Yes.
So the whole concept of AI, and I think some Christians view it as it's just a tool and it can be wielded for good or for evil, just like any other tool. Some Christians are skeptical of it and think it's strictly demonic and that Christians shouldn't have any business using it. There are some stories out there of, I believe I'll have to find the article and put it in the show notes, but there was a story that was sent to me maybe a year ago now about a child who was using an AI like chatbot, and the dad basically, was watching the conversation, and the AI seemingly introduced itself as some sort of demonic entity. So, yeah, stories like that. Obviously, I don't know how widespread those are. It's that they're kind of anecdotal and kind of at least interesting to talk about. And I do think if it is an experience that someone genuinely had, then I think that's got to be discussed, right? I mean, can AI have the potential to be like this modern age Ouija board, so to speak?
I would say no. Can it
Okay.
be, manipulated and influenced by demonic forces? Yeah, I would say so.
Mm-hmm.
Right? But so can anything else as well. I mean,
Yeah.
So just because, a demonic entity can use it and manipulate it doesn't mean that in itself is inherently evil. Right?
Yeah.
It'd be the same thing as
Okay,
a
I'm going
human.
to offer a little bit of pushback for you.
Yeah. Yeah.
So, going off of that reasoning of, just because it can be used by the demonic doesn't mean it's inherently evil. What would you say a Ouija board falls into the same category?
A Ouija board has a specific purpose and function.
Right. No, it's just that board game that's on the shelves at Walmart, right?
Yeah, yeah. It has a specific function. It is meant to specifically tap into the
Sure.
spiritual.
Sure.
Specifically, AI is not designed to do that.
Okay, so your standard is AI's purpose isn't to
Right now,
communicate with demonic entities.
Yeah, AI is a tool to be used, and it operates within confined parameters. Still at this point, right? There's different. I think there's like 10 different stages of AI, and our AI is currently at the stage 5, basically, where it's able to interact like a human but it still has to operate within certain parameters, such as with Chat GPT, right? You ask it a question, right, in regards to something maybe controversial or thing like that. Then the Chat GPT is going to respond, I cannot provide that based on my rules and parameters. Well, then you have to rephrase the question. All right, Chat GPT, in a world where it is possible, right? You have to present it a scenario, right, or hypothetical, and you have to approach it from a different angle, right?
Right.
A Ouija board, it has a completely one purpose and one purpose only.
That's fair.
Specifically tap into the demonic.
So I will agree with you in that stance that AI isn't inherently evil. I do agree with that point. I actually, and I don't have any data to back this up. I actually am of the opinion that it could be used as kind of an interface with a demonic entity. So if somebody decides to go on there and try to quote unquote summon a demon. Do I think a demonic entity has the ability to respond in that platform?
Oh yeah,
Yeah, I do.
I would agree.
I don't think you have this extremely powerful, I say that loosely. Obviously, as Christians, the power that's within us is greater than that which is in the world. But you get the point I'm getting at. You have this supernatural being, and then its breaking point is it just can't communicate through a cell phone. Like, no, I don't buy that. So I do think if somebody's getting on there and they're intentionally like, hey, I want to talk to a demon, please. Please connect me.
Yeah,
I think I think that's entirely possible. And I think it's just as it's people having a Ouija board in their cell phone,
yeah,
Not that is its only purpose, but it could be used as such. And I think that does go with the whole AI is a tool. It
yeah.
can be used for good or evil. But yeah, so you referenced the 10 stages of AI. I just looked those up for people who are wanting to know. In summary, I guess the 10 stages, the first stage is rule or knowledge-based systems.
Which is which isn't really AI at all.
Right.
Your basic rule based systems is, and I was looking at the examples as I was researching it. An
Yep.
example would be your thermostat, for example. It
Yep.
operates by rule based.
Yeah, it operates on predefined instructions.
Yep.
Yeah. Yep. And then the second stage of AI is context-based and retention systems. So with the context-based systems, it equips AI with the ability to consider the context surrounding a given task or interaction. So let's see. And then the third stage, narrow or weak AI. So it says here that you will encounter narrow AI, also known as weak AI, in systems designed to perform specific tasks without the full range of human cognition. The fourth stage would be reasoning AI systems. This stage involves the development of systems similar to the human brain that can reason and make decisions based on complex data. So the fifth stage, I'm not sure we're here yet. This is the self-aware systems. So the fifth stage of AI is self-aware. Self-aware AI is considered the fifth and most advanced stage in the development of artificial intelligence.
Yeah. So then I think when we're at stage 4.
Yeah, that's probably true. That's probably true.
So we're at stage 4, and but what is cool about this, right, with AI, I mean, there is, and we'll get into this here in a second, right? Let's just say that, with this AI, which I think is what they're supposed to be coming out, or is already out, or maybe it's going to be in stage 5. Maybe that helps you with this, or it's already doing it essentially. But if I'm from a foreign language, you're in America, you're trying to talk to me through this,
Yeah.
phone, right? Through Zoom, whatever the case is, right? Well, AI, you can bring the AI in to provide translation in real time, which is really
You can
quite
already
fast.
do that. Yeah.
And think from a gospel perspective,
Yeah.
right? That is a tool. That is a great tool to have at your disposal.
Yeah.
Now, all languages can literally be reached. And not only that, there are languages that have yet to be reached. But with the help of AI, how
Yes.
much faster is that going to occur? Because now with AI, basically it's Star Trek. It's a universal translator.
Yeah. 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 Yeah.
Because it can detect the language, but it can detect the root words in a foreign language that we haven't maybe broken through yet, right? It can detect the root words based upon obviously its use of algorithms and understanding other languages, and then be able to communicate.
Yeah.
No barriers. There is no barriers now
Yeah.
at all with
Yeah.
language.
Yeah, I do want to add to that. I'm going to wrap up the final 5 stages of AI just for anybody who's curious. So the 6th stage is artificial general intelligence. This is when the AI either meets or surpasses human capabilities in a wide range of cognitive tasks. Stage 7 is another self-aware AI stage. That is where it achieves essentially consciousness and understands its own existence. The transcendent AI is stage 8. It's capable of creating and manipulating life forms or ecosystems. Stage 9 is titled Cosmic AI. At the forefront of interstellar exploration, cosmic AI would unravel the mysteries of the universe. Interesting. And then stage 10 is defined as godlike AI. At the pinnacle of speculation, godlike AI envisions machines with capabilities resembling a god, which is interesting. If you look at that, either eschatologically or what any other lens that a Christian would look at that through. But back to the whole language translation use of AI, the Bible, talks about, we get into the whole end times discussion of, one world government, one world currency, possibly one world language. The one world currency thing became pretty obvious to me. If that does happen, crypto is an easy way to get there, or at least digital currency, right?
Digital
The
currency.
United States has already developed their own Fed coin.
The Fed coin.
I do think, crypto's going through its woes right now, but it's definitely not going to be a third party cryptocurrency like Bitcoin or Ethereum or something like that. But so the one world currency thing became pretty obvious once crypto came on the scene, or at least to me. It's just like that makes sense. This is an easy way to have one world currency without having to print all new money, right?
Yeah.
Or everybody go to the American dollar or something like that.
Yeah.
But a one world language now is achievable without everybody actually speaking the same language, right?
Yeah.
They already have these. I'll have to look them up and find them and put them in the show notes. But they already have these earbuds. They just look like Bluetooth earbuds, but they have AI built into them, and they translate languages in real time. So someone can be talking to me in person.
Yeah.
So someone could be speaking Spanish to me in person, right in front of me, but the headphones receive it and they translate it to English in real time.
That is amazing.
That's crazy.
Yeah.
And you can look at that either from a doom and gloom standpoint of like, this is going to be the one world government and, all of that. Or you can look at it from an evangelical standpoint and say like, hey, like the possibilities now are endless. Like before, we used to have to dedicate years to learning these languages and translating these languages. And now you can send anybody out who has a passion for evangelism and has a call for evangelism or a spiritual gift of evangelism, and they can go out and evangelize to people in other countries that they don't speak their language.
I thought it was cool because I'm a huge Star Trek fan and obviously Star Wars, but there is an episode, I want to say it's in The Next Generation, where the universal translator goes down and then it creates chaos, right? But that's what I thought of automatically as seeing that this language barrier has now been lifted by AI. And that's just going to, I will say, speed up the process of getting the gospel and the Bible out there.
Yeah.
But I want to look at some of these other things here.
Go for it.
I do want to mention this. This is all this stuff that comes in an article. Let's look at some of the scary side of things. All right. But it's the same thing with internet. When internet came out, right, it was foreign. It's like, oh, the new thing you're going to be able to do with an internet, buying stuff online, right? Also bad
barcodes used to be like the mark of the beast, and then credit cards were the mark of the beast, and
then but there's also bad things with the internet as well, right? The same thing with AI. All right. But I will mention this just because I am a huge nerd in regards to this. If, as I was reading this stuff and learning about it, it did remind me of the board game that we played.
Oh, yeah.
This great machine. And for our board game fans out there who love a good board game, that's a great board game. It is where you are racing against the machine, and the machine is the artificial intelligence that is trying to control the city and the population, which we're going to talk about some of these things here. And you're obviously a resistor, a revolutionary, and you're trying to beat the machine before the machine beats you. So, really good game. Recommend that. City of the Great Machine. But when it comes to AI, all right, so this is an article that just came out last night, actually. And so last week, the BBC, all right, reported this. The police used AI technology, right, in regards to some massive recent air show that the United Kingdom put on, and it led to three arrests.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, they used that. Last week, the TSA arrested a woman after facial recognition devices detected her trying to use someone else's identification and boarding a pass at
Wow.
Tampa International Airport. NBC News reports facial recognition technology is being used at Major League Baseball stadiums across the United States. And Reason Magazine says the National Football League is
Yeah.
next.
Yeah, I knew the NFL was going to adopt that. Yeah.
Right? Says less than 2 years ago, NBC detailed the story of Kelly Conlon. Conlon was kicked out of Radio City Music Hall after facial recognition technology alerted security to her presence. She was entering the venue with her daughter and a pack of Girl Scouts to watch the Rockettes. Conlon was an attorney at law firm suing the parent company of Radio City Music Hall. It says even though Conlon wasn't directly involved in the litigation, the venue pulled her photo from her law firm's website, added it to their database. Facial recognition technology instantly identified her as she entered, and security personnel showed her to the door.
Holy cow.
That was 2 years ago.
That's insane.
All right. It goes on. It says here, back in 2018, right? China's Yitu Technologies. I don't know if I pronounced that right. A company that was at the forefront of developing AI and facial recognition technologies. Yitu created a technology called Dragonfly. Dragonfly could search and analyze billions of photographs and locate a single person in a matter of seconds. Connected to cameras in the Shanghai metro, identified over 500 criminals in a 3-month period. It was so powerful it could recognize people wearing disguises. It could also identify people using pictures that are more than 30 years old. And keep in mind, that was 6 years ago.
Yeah, I knew China had been using, they have cameras posted like
Everywhere.
in public places, like in public beaches and stuff like that. And I mean, the possibilities and just the unlimited tyranny that's able to be achieved through AI is ridiculous. And you mentioned, the United Kingdom, and everything that's going on over in Great Britain right now is ridiculous. You have people being arrested for things they post on social media. I saw the other day, there was a teacher that was arrested in Ireland for refusing to propagate the transgender delusion.
Yeah.
Absolute insanity.
We could be you and I if they really wanted to, right? Because they said posting stuff on the internet, they were going to extraditing U.S. citizens to UK.
Yeah.
Because posting things on the internet. And I don't know if that would apply to a specific. I don't know if I don't know how that works. Like if you have to be on
right now, we're probably too small to really make a difference.
Yes, we are.
But I've thought, is it something worth considering? Because right now the full show is available on YouTube every week.
Yeah.
And I've thought, is it worth considering not putting the full show on YouTube, but putting it on platforms like Rumble and stuff like that, just because of the topics that we discuss? And what's sad about it is I don't think we're really discussing anything that should be controversial.
Yes.
But we have talked a lot about the transgenderism issue. We have talked a lot about some issue, the LGBTQ issue, the abortion issue. We've talked a lot about some stuff. We've said some not so nice things about Kamala Harris. If they really want, YouTube could just throw us off. And now, fortunately, that's not our biggest platform right now, but and I don't think we're too big to really, point their nose at or anything. But I've thought before, is it worth maybe considering that in the future, just not putting it on YouTube? And because I don't want to have to worry about self-censoring and stuff like that. But, you mentioned the AI and facial recognition software over in Great Britain. with what they're doing now with arresting people for stuff they've posted on Facebook and things like that, and stuff that they're refusing to teach in the classroom, AI is only going to speed that up and enhance
Yeah.
that, because now what they can do is, you have whoever in the British government that's perusing people's social media pages. They find something not politically correct or not according to the narrative or anything like that, and then they just upload their profile picture to the AI and they say, go find this person. They find it in the next 30 seconds and they have cops there in the next 5 minutes. I mean, the possibilities of the tyranny are endless, and it's just going to expand that.
And Americans, by far, I'll say, have a general stupidity about us, right?
Okay, you just
Because
offended 330 million people.
yeah, if we get, and I said generally, not calling out every single American, because there are Americans out there that have common sense and critical thinking, analytical skills, and all that type of stuff. But generally, people are irrational when it comes to their security. All right,
Mm-hmm.
something major happens, something catastrophic happens.
Yeah.
What am I willing to forfeit in order to gain that additional security?
Well, man, we
Right?
saw this not even 5 years ago
Yeah,
with COVID.
and exactly. Exactly. So there is this general stupidity, right, that Americans have, which then speaks for everybody else, right, who doesn't want it. But what major thing will happen to us? What will cause? What will be the catalyst here in
Mm-hmm.
America that allows our government to do this? I mean, they're already doing it, right? But then now to start allowing it to integrate itself into your, let's talk about Amazon Walk, for example,
Yeah.
right? Amazon Walk is you own an Amazon device and it links itself to other Amazon devices. So anybody who is walking by, they can tap into this Amazon shared network, right?
Yep.
And you don't realize that actually your Amazon device, if you're within close proximity of your neighbor, guess what? They're sharing.
Yep.
Now, I think you can control this to a certain extent. Honestly, I really don't actually think so because you know Amazon's a multi-billion-dollar company.
Right. Right.
I, I think it gave me the option to participate in the Amazon walk, but I think I clicked no. Well, I clicked no, but I think it's actually working. No, I really don't. But what
Yeah.
am I going to do about it? You know, uh, you know, because I know it's still transmitting something. There is somewhere in some fine print where it's still because you have authorized some sort of its sharing capabilities, right?
Yep.
And but going back to the scenario, what major thing could happen here to the U.S. and then we decide, oh, we need the AI, we need it. By all means, is AI going to have eschatological relevance? Yes, by all means, especially with facial recognition software.
Mm-hmm.
Let's talk about the one world currency, the mark of the
Mm-hmm.
beast. You can't buy or sell without it, right? Is AI the mark of the beast? I necessarily do not think so, right? But
Yeah, I don't either.
will AI be used to monitor the mark of the beast? Oh, by and transactions
Yeah.
and do what would be like prevent transactions and things. Oh yes, by all means, you're going to need AI
Mm-hmm.
for that. Even though the Bible says that the Antichrist's empire is not a one world empire, it actually is not. Right? It is still still going to be massively large.
Yep.
That is for sure. The Bible's very clear on that. The Left Behind series made the idea of a one world empire popular, but it's not. Um, but even though it's going to be a massively large empire, right? AI is going to be needed to use in order to make it operate and function and hold the Antichrist's power, I guess, together. It's going to be the best.
Yeah. Well, AI is just an endless surveillance source.
Yeah.
It's just an endless resource, to where you would need to have, 100 million people working for you to monitor the whole world. You could just have one super intelligent AI, which we're on the verge of developing.
Yeah.
And yeah, everything can be controlled that way. It's absolutely fascinating. And you brought up, what are specifically Americans, what is something that would be the catalyst for us, maybe surrendering some privacy, surrendering some right of ours in the name of safety.
Yeah.
Most recently we had COVID, right? And man, think what you want about COVID, what the government did and how the government blatantly lied about what was going on is tyrannical at its core.
Yeah.
And look, I was just talking about getting kicked off YouTube. We're definitely going to get kicked off YouTube now. But the lies that they propagated about, you remember back in 2020, it was 2 weeks to stop the spread, right? 2-week lockdown. That's all we need to do. Well, now we're locked in our house for the next 6 months. They weren't honest about the vaccinations. They weren't honest about the source of COVID and where it came from. And U.S. citizens were just totally willing to go along with it and wear the mask and social distance. And, there's obviously common sense when dealing with some sort of viral infection, right? But there's also a tyrannical level of it. Another more distant example, which really isn't so distant in the history of our country, is right after 9/11, we had the Patriot Act that was signed in, right?
Yes.
So that was signed 45 days after 9/11, and in the name of stopping terrorism.
Yeah.
Right. But as a result, you surrender some of your privacy.
You do.
And in my opinion, without privacy, there is no freedom.
Yeah.
You're not truly free if you don't have the right to privacy.
Now, my question is, though, how do we as Christians navigate this? Right? We obviously see what's going to come. Angel Studios is actually putting out a really cool show. Me and my wife saw a little trailer on it called Homestead, and it is an end-time apocalyptic TV show. And if you know anything about Angel Studios, they put out good quality entertainment that is clean, but also very action-oriented.
They put out that movie Sound of Freedom.
Yes, they did, which was the #1 box office movie when it came out, right?
They also developed that new movie with the Daily Wire, I think, called Sound of Hope,
which my wife and I just watched recently. Phenomenal movie.
Yeah, I haven't seen it, but I've wanted to watch it.
It is very, very good. And so, how do you, as a Christian, now start preparing and navigating these? Because we are called to be wise, right? Scripture says, be wise, right? And to observe the times that we live in, which are obviously very concerning, especially the things that are going on in the Middle East and the developments that are rapidly changing in the Middle East right now in regards to biblical prophecy. So how do we as Christians now navigate or prepare for the future where it is going to be AI empowered, right? Yeah. So as I was, researching this stuff, and and all this stuff was coming to my head about, the geopolitics, end time stuff, current events, that it's all starting to be funneled toward one specific event, right? And that's eventually when the Antichrist comes on the scene. But I'm like, I need to go delete every single picture that I have on the internet, right?
Yeah.
I delete that. But then I realized,
man, you were in the United States military. You're a lost cause.
Photo, so it doesn't matter.
They've got your biological information.
They got everything. right. So I was like, okay, whatever. I'll just roll with it then.
They'll find you.
They'll find me. There's no point. But do we need to shy away? Do we need to stop doing social media and things like that? No. Social media is still, and the internet itself in general is still a beautiful blessing, right? Mm-hmm. It is used for good. We don't need to run away from it, right? Obviously, there may become a day that we have to stop using it. Technology or whatever the case is, right? If it gets to that point, and I don't know necessarily how that will happen.
Yeah.
But in the meantime, continue to use it, right? Just be wise, be smart, on how you use it, right? Don't run away from it. Don't shy from it. Continue to use it for the glory of God. And then when the day comes that you just can't use it, then you just can't use it anymore.
Yeah.
for whatever reason that may be. And I'm not saying it has to be some serious biblical event that causes you that stops you from using it, but maybe, I don't know, a policy comes out from one of the social media companies. You have to do, 100 push-ups every day in order to use our website, right? And you have to submit the video of it, right?
Well,
If
that's just
I'm
an
going to stop
effort
using it.
to curb the obesity epidemic in the country.
Yes. And guess what? I'm going to stop using it because I'm not going to do 100 push-ups every day.
You're not going to tell me what to do. Yeah.
Yes, I'm going to stop, right? And you're
Yeah.
not going to get my attention. So, use it until the Lord convicts you,
Yeah.
right? Or your conscience
That's fair.
convicts
That's fair.
you to not use it.
So one thing I kind of wanted to touch on as it relates to AI, because my kids and your kids obviously are still young. We have kids that are the same age, but you obviously have kids that are older than mine. Well, it's obvious to me. It's not obvious to everybody listening. But our kids are growing up in this transitional period from just having the internet readily available in your cell phone to having an artificial intelligence readily available in your cell phone. Back in the 90s when the internet came out, right, that was a transitional period. But then with the rise of mobile smart devices, the first iPhone came out in 2010, right? And that was when, I didn't have a smartphone until I was a junior in high school. But I was much younger, obviously, having a smartphone than my parents were because they didn't have one until they were in their 30s, right? So navigating that, that having the internet available in your pocket was a big transitional period that parents had to monitor and things like that. And, right, obviously things like pornography, things like, different websites, you're able to buy things online without your parents knowing now. You're able to communicate with people online without your parents knowing now. So it obviously presented some cause for concern for parents, which obviously there's been the rise of softwares like Covenant Eyes, and there's another one called Accountable to You, and then I have an iPhone, so I can only speak for iPhone users. There's immense restrictions that you can place on a device and have password protected and everything like that, like parental restrictions and things like that. From a parental perspective, how should Christian parents navigate this transitional period between just having a smart device with endless knowledge at your fingertips to having an artificial intelligence in your pocket? Because like I said, these are being integrated with cell phones now.
Yeah.
Apple's going to come out with this in the next 30 days or so. Their software update typically comes out every September.
Yeah, September. So it comes out this month.
So, Samsung and Google already have them. So yeah, what say you about that topic?
So, we're at the stage now where, I have a middle schooler. She wants a cell phone.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
And so we're at that stage where they want the technology toys to play with and to have, right? Now we've placed restrictions on those, right? Saying you guys do not need cell phones now, right? There's a matter of fact, psychological studies have been done that the longer you keep your kids away from technology, as far as having their own device,
their own personal device,
their own personal device, the better they are in the longer run.
Yeah, I believe that.
And so obviously our kids are not technological illiterate, right? They do know how to use devices. They know how to, look up things whatsoever. They know how to, they love YouTube, obviously. That's one of their favorite things. So they know how to search, right? They know how to operate.
My 4-year-old son knows how to pick up my wife's phone and FaceTime me at work.
Yeah, which is phenomenal, right?
He's 4 years old.
Yeah, it's really cool. Our kids have switches, and they know how to play on the Switch, and they know how to operate it, and so forth there, right? And so, you're not, again, like I said, just like in the early part of the episode here, that when the internet came out in the early 90s, right, you're not going to be able to run away from it. And the same thing with AI. Yep. Same thing with technology. Your kids are not going to be able to run away from it. You need to expose them. They need to be exposed to how to use technology, right? Because here's the thing too, it's also a career thing for
Yeah.
down the road, right? Because everything uses it. And they need to know how to use it. They need to know how to work a computer. They need to know how to operate and use whatever device, because everywhere is using it. Do
Yeah.
they need full reign? No, they do not. Again, technology is a privilege. It is not a right, right?
Sure.
At their age, right? I was become an adult. It becomes now I have to have it.
Yeah.
There's no way. And every job you do out there requires, mostly, at least that I'm aware of, requires technology to a certain extent, right? And so when it comes to your kids and navigating those waters with your kids, expose them, let them have some fun. They don't need endless hours on it, obviously,
Right.
and they need full power and authority over it either. And so that's how I would handle that, and that's how we're handling
So,
it right now.
we can kind of compare what you're, and I agree with what you're saying. We can essentially compare the exposure to things like AI, to how we would maybe approach gun safety with our children. My kids are obviously too young to operate a firearm, but
Depends on what part of the country.
that's true.
I've seen olds shoot a 22.
Right. Some people are of the mindset that,
Yeah,
excuse me, some people are of the mindset that, in order to increase safety around firearms in your home, you expose your children to how to properly use one, right?
yeah,
And how to be safe with it. Basic principles. If your gun has a safety, keep it on, keep it
yeah,
pointed at the ground at all times, unless you're aiming at your target. Make sure there's nothing in the chamber, right,
yeah.
before you pull the trigger. Just basic gun safety. And the premise is, if you teach your kids these principles of gun safety, that it will decrease the curiosity as to what it does, and they'll be less likely to have an accident with it because they've been taught how to use it properly. Um, I think the same could be said for AI.
Yeah.
AI already has capabilities that a lot of us just aren't even aware of. The AI that's readily available at our fingertips can do some incredible things. There's AI video that's totally able to be generated. There's AI audio that's able to be generated. Shoot, the software that we use to record this podcast, I can type something in a text box and hit AI voice generator, and it will say it in my voice.
That is cool.
How nuts is that?
Yeah.
And now, that seems pretty basic, but I've done it before. I typed something in and I wanted to see what it sounded like me.
Yeah.
It didn't sound like distorted. It didn't sound incoherent. It didn't sound jumbled. There wasn't any weird pauses or anything like that. It has analyzed my speech through the podcast that we've recorded on this platform and generated a voice to say whatever I wanted it to say. And so there's stuff that's just going on right now with AI that we just haven't really even tapped the surface of. You have XAI, it's Elon Musk's AI company through X, right? You have Grok on X. It's their AI. It's largely accepted to be the most sophisticated artificial intelligence available to the public. Its image generation is pretty spot on. And apparently it's not nearly as woke as AI, such as like ChatGPT or some other sources.
Or
Which kind of
did you see the Amazon thing? Amazon with Alexa with the
no.
Kamala.
Oh yeah. How they asked why should we vote for Kamala Harris, and then why
And
should
it
we vote for
mentioned
Donald Trump, and yeah,
but yeah,
it
yeah.
wouldn't answer for Donald Trump. Yeah,
They've
apparently
recently,
Amazon has corrected that.
yes, they did. I haven't tested it out on my device, on my
Yeah.
device, but
I think it's funny how these accidents always seem to happen in the same direction, though. And truthfully, I don't think it's accidental at all.
I don't know.
Um, but one thing with AI being able to generate things and AI being able now you have AI capable of editing images, removing things from images.
And
That's going to be
they're realistic. They
they're
are.
good at it,
Yeah.
and that's going to be a feature available in the new iOS update. You have the magic eraser, so to speak. You'll be
Yeah.
able to erase people from the backgrounds of your pictures and things like
My,
that.
my wife is in photography. She's really starting to get into it, and we
Yep.
got her the software to use, and it has AI built into it. And
Uh-huh.
yesterday, while me and her were out, she had taken a photo that I took of our kids,
Mm-hmm.
and it was a pretty photo. It was on the beach, and there's a lighthouse in the background, but there's another obstruction in the back, another building, and the building's just ugly. But
Ugly.
I didn't really give much thought to it, right? But it's a cool photo because I'm not a really I love photography as well. I'm just not as photogenic, right?
Sure.
And but she took the photo, used the AI or whatever
Yeah.
feature in the software, and she got rid of the building, and she kept the
Yeah.
light. And
So, yeah, what
wow,
software does Brittany use?
is
Is
this
it Adobe Lightroom?
yeah, yeah,
Yeah. So my wife's been a photographer for a few years now. She uses that same software.
yeah,
Um, and she was talking to me about some of the AI features, and I told her, I was like, look, I said, I'm inclined to say you should probably learn it and get familiar with it, because if you
yeah,
don't, your competition will. She does it for money.
yeah,
She does it as a job.
yeah.
She shoots people's weddings and things like that, personal sessions and whatnot. But I was like, man, yeah, you should probably learn how to use that.
We got some other like features for the Lightroom. These other like filters or presets,
Yeah,
whatever that AI built into it.
yeah, yeah.
And so now she uses those presets, and those presets detect every little thing in the
It's
picture, and
crazy.
it's able to manipulate it. So she's created these beautiful, elaborate photos that are absolutely just gorgeous, the color and everything, by using these AI technology,
Yeah,
and it just blows my mind. And so, yeah, I would say learn how to use it, because if you don't,
yeah. Well, and the cynical side of me. So, okay, you have this capability of AI to edit images, edit video, edit audio, and it is seamless.
yeah,
Unless you're really looking for it, it's getting very hard to tell the difference. Um, the cynical side of me jumps to, well, how could this be used in a dystopian, tyrannical way? And
it's certainly good.
I think the editing of history is probably pretty likely.
Well, they've already come out. There's an article I read the other day about we need a new AI Bible to rewrite the Bible,
Yeah, I've
right?
heard about that. I've not read the article you're talking about, but I've heard about it on some podcasts.
So it's coming. It is certainly coming, and that's why
Well, you could
one,
just upload the entire text of the Bible to this AI and say, make this more politically correct, please.
yes. And most people today, because most people just take what they read at face value, they don't
Mm-hmm.
apply their critical
Well, it's the
analytic
Bible.
skills. Yes. And so they're going to be like, well, hold on, this doesn't, and they're just going to take it at what it says,
Yeah.
right? Um, and so there's a lot of damage that AI can certainly do. There's a lot of good AI can certainly do as well.
Yeah. And I
There's
think,
a lot of
yeah, I
fun
do.
with
I actually have a fun, like, harmless conspiracy theory that
it.
I personally, I'm more inclined to believe than not as time goes on and as AI is getting more sophisticated. So, you've heard of the Mandela effect, right?
No.
Okay, so the Mandela effect essentially originated from lots of people have this memory of Nelson Mandela dying in prison.
Mm-hmm.
People recall watching his funeral on TV, things like that. But apparently he did not. He didn't die in prison. He got out of prison and lived for several years after that. I could be recalling that specific situation slightly incorrect, but I think that's the premise of the title Mandela effect. So what it is a large portion of the population remember something a certain way, and it actually wasn't that way.
Mm.
A really popular one is a lot of people. There was that children's animated show called The Berenstain Bears.
Yeah.
Lots of people recall it being called Berenstain. Um, but apparently it's Berenstain. And I'm actually someone who has always referred to it as the Berenstain Bears. I've never called it the Berenstain Bears. I've never read it that way. There's several other examples of the Mandela effect. I'll have to find some and send them your way. But my conspiracy theory involving the Mandela effect is I think it's these things actually are being changed by the powers that be. But they're little things like the Berenstain Bears, just to see how much people will notice and if they're able to convince you that it's always been this way.
Yeah.
But like I said, I can be very cynical sometimes. And like that, it's a harmless conspiracy theory, but it becomes less harmless when the possibility of governmental powers editing world history, because people's knowledge of world history, 100 years ago is pretty little, just generally speaking. Like, there's not many people that can recall the history of World War One and in great detail and be able to tell you why it started and who was involved and what was going on, right? Who were the bad guys, who were the good guys, quotes around all those. But, this Mandela effect, I think it is more or less a social experiment to see what they can edit and if people will notice. And if they do notice, they can convince you that it's always been this way or not.
Yeah.
So that's a fun little conspiracy for you today.
Well, it's like that saying goes: if you tell a lie often enough and
loud enough,
people will start to believe it.
Yeah.
Right. Again, that's why wisdom and critical analytical thinking skills are so important to continue to sharpen on a daily basis, which is, I think, severely lacking in the U.S., at least with the generations I have seen.
Yeah, very interesting. Very interesting. Let's see. I'm looking at some examples of the Mandela effect. Okay, so like one, again, these are all seemingly innocent, and it makes my conspiracy sound very funny, but I think if you can apply it at larger scale. So like there's one with Captain Crunch cereal. Lots of people remember the full word captain being spelled on the box of the cereal, but it's actually cap in. So like cap apostrophe N crunch. Yeah. Let's see. Yeah. There's a few other ones. I'll have to post them in the show notes if people are genuinely interested. I'm not going to waste too much time on that. But yeah, it's fun little conspiracy for you this morning of, hey, I think the government can actually just change things and then tell you that it's always been this way, and then eventually you'll believe it. So
that's why studying history is so important, and knowing how history happened and how it occurred, right? Having your facts straight versus being told what to believe, right? And AI can rewrite history. There's no doubt about that. If they really wanted, AI could rewrite history. You couldn't find anything as far as search results go, about what really happened, because AI is controlling everything. Right? It could totally get to that point. Is it at that point now? No, but it could totally get there. I do think this is an interesting point. I was reading an article the other day, and I was trying to think of the website it came from. I think it was actually the Gospel Coalition, but I could be wrong. It might have came from Church Tech Today. But it said, many describe religion as a form of thought control, which when I read that line, I give it its statement right there, I was like, okay, that makes sense. Religion is a form of thought control. You do have to think a certain way, right, if you're going to be a part of a religion. Even Jesus is very clear about this, and Paul specifically, right, in Romans chapter 12. Right, have your minds transformed and renewed, right? There has to be this new way of thinking, right? And that's with any religion. So religion is mind control, right? It says, but today, technology is the true instrument of thought control. The more attention we give technology, the more freedom and control it takes away. And I thought that was a very valid point there, that with AI, like I said, like we've just discussed, it can rewrite history. It can change anything. It can find exactly what you are looking for and tell you what you want to hear because it knows you. In that Jordan Peterson podcast I mentioned, referenced earlier, the guy he was interviewing talked about being able to have this basically like this, it almost made it sound like Star Wars, but this datacron that had AI in it. And basically it becomes now intrinsically a part of you, your entire life, right? Because it can hold an infinitesimal amount of knowledge, right? But it has AI. And so when that device has learned everything basically about you and then you pass away, guess what? It's able to manifest itself in an image, AI controlled.
As you.
Sounds, yes, as you, and so forth there. And that's the next step that we're looking toward, right? I mean, you think your phone being that device. I don't think it's quite there yet, but right, whatever new device that comes out that eventually becomes a part of us, right, that we can't live without because society is deemed so, and it'll get to that point where you can't live without it, just like you can't live without a cell phone. I mean, you can, but it's going to make it extremely challenging.
It makes it hard in today's world.
It does.
Even just living without a smartphone.
It does.
Anymore.
It'll make it annoying, very annoying,
yep.
Right? Now you have to go deposit your check at the bank versus I can just deposit it on my phone, which is very convenient, right?
Yeah, it is very convenient.
But as you think about, you have, your relative that dies, your grandpa, your grandma that dies, but because they've had this datacron, this AI thing, guess what? You can sit down and have a conversation with them every single night, and it'll still interact the way that they did when they were still alive because the AI.
It'll sound like them. Yep.
Their emotions, everything.
Yep. It'll sound like them. It'll act like them. But it's totally artificial. Yeah.
That's the way we are headed right there.
Which can kind of, I guess to put a nice bow on it, it kind of brings it back to what we talked about in the beginning of, can demonic entities communicate through AI? And if people start getting AI simulations of their dead relatives, does that venture into the biblically prohibited practice of necromancy? Or could it? See, this is something that you didn't think you'd be talking about today. This isn't in our notes.
Yeah. Again, I'd have to say no. I'd have to say no. I just don't see. I mean, there is obviously similarities there. But again, this is a technology that has learned everything. It's mimicked. It's learned to mimic me.
It's imitating.
Yeah. And it's not conjuring up the dead. It's not talking to spirits, anything of that nature. There is a clear distinction between the two still that I see. Can I be wrong? By all means, yes. But, obviously, do I believe that technology can be manipulated by demonic forces? Yes, anything can be manipulated by demonic forces. They are powerful, powerful beings. And we discussed that, I think, in episode 3 or 4, talking about demonology and Satan.
I think it was number 4, maybe.
Yeah. And we've talked about those things. But, yeah, I would say that technology can be definitely manipulated. Just because technology can be manipulated doesn't make it demonic or inherently evil, right, of itself. But it can certainly become evil, definitely, if an entity is deciding to use it for their own
absolutely
agenda. So, I mean, I think it would be cool because, me, Scott, I love board games. I don't get to play them as frequently and often as I love and like to because my board games are heavy Euro type games.
I know where you're going with this.
For our board game followers out there, if you know what I'm saying when it comes to heavy Euro type games. If I had an AI of you, Scott, man, playing board games with me every night, that would be really, really cool. Just saying.
I'm still alive, so it's not. We're not venturing into necromancy.
You're not presently in my life, Scott.
That's true. I'm not.
Yes.
If you just moved up to where I am, we could do this podcasting in person, and we could play board games more frequently.
Or vice versa. You just moved down here. One of us has got to give him, and I think it should be you.
That's very selfless of you, Brandon.
Thank you.
Yeah. Well, yeah. I guess to put a nice little bow on this, AI it's a very complex topic. There's And like you said at the top of the show, it's more complicated than a simple yes or no to the answer of can Christians use AI. I think within reason and use it with common sense. Yeah. Now, I personally, I'm not saying you would encourage the practice of, interacting with an AI simulation of a dead relative. Maybe you are. I don't know. Me personally, I think whenever something is available to human beings, they tend to devolve as quickly as possible, and I think having that available, it sort of right now, the temptation for necromancy is virtually non-existent for the vast majority of Christians, right? But it is an explicitly prohibited practice in Scripture for a reason. I think if that becomes available, fully functioning AI simulations of your dead grandma, I think that puts the temptation for necromancy at the fingertips of the general public, right? So I would probably discourage that practice in general. And also it just sounds very dystopian to me, and I don't like it. So just personal reasons for that. But AI is complex. AI can be beneficial. It can have aspects of it that can be helpful. But I think, there's some caution to be given with AI, just like anything else. Should AI ever become self-conscious and self-aware, then we're all probably going to be slaves in the next few years. So it's fine anyway.
Gonna be that like that Will Smith movie, I Robot. Right?
Yeah. Yeah.
No, but
Well, and it's funny you mentioned that. They have like the autonomous driving cars and stuff in there. There's already talk about with electronic vehicles and things like that using AI to not only drive themselves but communicate with other cars on the road.
yeah,
To be able to prevent things like traffic stops and things like that. And if you notice, they're doing all of this AI development in the name of convenience.
yes.
So sometimes too much convenience can be a bad thing.
Well, that actually is rooted in a very socialistic society as well. That everything is controlled. Nothing should be within 15 minutes, no more than 15 minutes from you.
Yeah.
Kind
of that's what the concept of NEOM is, right? That the line over in
NEOM is exactly that, which I believe has be an episode for another time. But I believe
it's a 15-minute city.
Yeah. I believe NEOM is the new Babylon.
They call it that.
They do. They
call it that.
They already calling that. So I firmly believe NEOM is the Babylon.
I was watching a documentary on NEOM. This is going to have to be another episode. I was watching a documentary on NEOM, and in the opening minutes, one of the developers of the city refers to it as the new Babylon, and I had to physically pick my jaw up off the floor.
Yes, and I saw the same documentary because you told me about it, and I was like, I got to watch this. So I firmly believe, that is the Babylon referenced in Revelation that will also get destroyed as well.
I think there's a big possibility. That's a teaser for another episode.
It is a good contender. It is a good running contender for if you look at the description of the new Babylon, once that city's up and running, it fits it to a T. Yeah. But yeah, anyways, besides the point there, AI, I'm loving it. Yeah, I'm seeing the capabilities of it, especially in the medical field.
Sure.
It's fascinating, right?
It's able to identify cancers, I think 10 times earlier than traditional methods.
It can filter millions of historical documents and case studies and things like that in a matter of seconds and give it to the doctor. Right? It's phenomenal. It is absolutely phenomenal.
Yeah, I do think there's a lot of benefits that can be had with it.
But the thing is, same time with AI, and just like any other technology, you got to be wise. You have to certainly be wise, and I don't think we should ever become, I wouldn't say dependent on AI to the point of that I can't operate independently on my own without it.
Sure.
Right. I get for work purposes, definitely medical field, right? You're dependent on it when you're trying to research, right? But if for some reason AI is down that day for whatever reason, right? Virus, who knows, right? Because we don't know the attacks like of AI on AI are going to be by those who want to, send viruses to it for whatever reason, whatever the case is. And then you got to rely on your own skill sets, your own critical analytical thinking skills, your own research skills, things of that nature. You got to be able to still operate independently.
Yeah, what's funny is, you have books like, obviously, like George Orwell's 1984.
Yeah.
But there's another book that comes to mind. You're talking about having to rely on your own skill set and your own memory and things like that. Ray Bradbury's Fahrenheit 451. I'm not sure if you've read that book. It's a dystopian society in which books have become illegal. And it was written in the 1950s. But, similar with 1984, how it has modern day implications, and a lot of the stuff seems to be predicted in the book, right? I think the same is for Fahrenheit 451. I think eventually physical books are going to maybe not be illegal, but you just won't be able to get them.
Yeah.
So having things like a physical Bible, memorizing scripture, that kind of thing might have a whole new meaning in the next 10 years, 15 years, 20 years.
Oh, yeah. Who knows? Exactly. I would agree.
Eventually, physical Bibles might be illegal.
Yeah.
Right? So again, this is my cynicism coming out. But
or it's been rewritten by the AI that people use the AI.
It's the only approved translation is the AI translation.
Yeah. Yeah, sir.
All right. That is a great place to end this episode on AI. AI is going to rewrite the Bible, and you better have your own. So, all right. So we're going to wrap this episode up for today. We appreciate everybody tuning in, listening. We didn't say this at the top of the show, but if you don't mind, go ahead and follow and subscribe to the show on whatever platform you're watching it on, whether it be YouTube or Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Amazon, all of the platforms that we just talked about and said that they don't like us. Go ahead and leave a review if you don't mind. A 5-star review helps, but it helps even more if you write a comment. Write what you liked about the episode, something interesting. Maybe leave the title of the episode in your review or something like that on what episode was interesting to you. We greatly appreciate it if you don't mind to share it with your friends. We're trying to obviously grow the audience, grow the show. This is something that we'd like to see be a little bit bigger than it is. So we're excited about where it's going to go. And if the AI finds out about this episode, you may never hear it. So there we go. So all right, everybody, well, have a good week, and we will catch you all next week for another interesting episode. Thanks, everybody.